More importantly, it had been analyzing the energy signatures of their weapons and ships, mapping their communication frequencies, and documenting their biological characteristics, and now it was transmitting all of that data in a tight beam burst toward Earth. "You see," Marcus continued, still smiling as alarm pheromones began emanating from several of the aliens. "The first rule of scientific method is observation. The second rule is documentation. And the third rule?" Vexthal's weapon was charging, its yellow glow intensifying. "What is the third rule? Always have a backup plan. The transmission would take months to reach Earth, but when it arrived, humanity would know exactly what they were facing. They would know about the Zephyrian Empire, about their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. They would know that humans were no longer alone in the universe, and that they were being hunted." Marcus thought about his crew, about Sarah and the others who had died in the ambush. They had been scientists too, explorers seeking knowledge among the stars. Their deaths wouldn't be meaningless if the data reached Earth, if humanity could prepare for what was coming. "Fire!" Vexthal commanded. 12 energy weapons discharged simultaneously, their combined fury turning the rocky ground where Marcus stood into a crater of fused glass and superheated stone. The human's environmental suit offered no protection against such overwhelming firepower. His body was vaporized instantly, leaving only a faint shadow burned into the alien landscape. But as the energy dissipated and the aliens began to move away from their successful hunt, none of them noticed the small probe that detached itself from the moon's surface and began its long journey toward Sol. Strike Commander Vexthal paused at the edge of the crater, his eye clusters focused on the spot where the human had stood. Something about this hunt felt different, wrong somehow. The human's behavior had been unlike any prey species they had encountered. Most showed fear, desperation, anger. Emotions the Zephyrians understood and could use to break their enemy's will. But Marcus Chen had shown none of those things. Even in the face of certain death, he had seemed almost pleased. "Commander," one of his subordinates approached. "Shall we begin search patterns for additional survivors?" Vexthal considered this. Their intelligence indicated that the human research vessel had carried a crew of 12, and they had confirmed 11 deaths in the initial attack. This human Chen had been the last. "No," he decided finally. "The human infestation in this system has been eliminated. We return to the fleet." As the Crimson Talon Death Squad departed Kepler 442c, leaving only the crater and the silent landscape behind, they remained unaware of the profound mistake they had just made. They had encountered their first human, and in their arrogance, they had learned nothing about what that encounter meant. They had treated Marcus Chen like prey, like all the other species they had hunted across 43 worlds. They had seen his lack of fear as an anomaly, his calmness as shock, his final smile as madness. They had no understanding that humans were different. That when cornered, when facing impossible odds, when confronted with the death of everything they held dear, humans didn't just fight back. They evolved. High above the moon's surface, a small automated probe adjusted its trajectory toward a distant yellow star. In its memory banks, it carried the complete biological and technological profiles of humanity's first contact with an alien species. It carried the knowledge that would allow Earth to prepare for war. And in the growing darkness of space, it carried the legacy of 12 humans who had died not as prey, but as the first soldiers in a conflict that would reshape the galaxy. Marcus Chen's final message, encoded in the probe's databanks along with all the scientific observations, was simple. They think we're just another species to be hunted. Show them how wrong they are. The probe's engines hummed softly as it began its long journey home, carrying with it the spark that would ignite humanity's first interstellar war. Behind it, Kepler 442c continued its silent orbit, now marked forever as the place where humans first learned they were not alone, and where they first decided to do something about it. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood before the massive holographic display in Earth's primary defense command, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she studied the data that had arrived 16 hours ago. The probe's information painted a picture that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about their place in the universe. "Run the tactical analysis again," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent 30 years defending humanity's growing presence among the stars. The hologram shifted, displaying the alien vessels that had destroyed the Meridian Explorer. Their design was unlike anything in Earth's databases. Organic curves combined with clearly advanced technology, weapons that could tear through human shields like paper, and propulsion systems that defied current understanding of physics. The energy signatures are consistent across all recorded interactions, reported Dr. James Walsh, the lead xenotechnology specialist who had been analyzing the data non-stop since its arrival. These Zephyrians, as they call themselves, appear to have technology at least 2 centuries ahead of our current capabilities. Admiral Mitchell nodded grimly. She had seen the tactical recordings of the Meridian Explorer's destruction, watched helplessly as the research vessel's defenses proved utterly inadequate against the alien attackers. 12 good people had died in less than 6 minutes. What about their weapons? Asked General Rodriguez, head of Earth's Military Development Division. Energy-based, highly efficient. Dr. Walsh pulled up detailed scans of the alien rifles. But here's the interesting part. They appear to be designed for hunting rather than warfare. Notice the precision targeting systems, the variable power settings. These aren't military weapons designed to destroy fortifications or large vessels. They're hunting rifles, Admiral Mitchell realized, her blood running cold.
Exactly.
Which suggests that the Zephyrians view other species as prey, not as potential enemies or equals. Their entire tactical doctrine appears built around the concept of hunting inferior beings. The implications of this revelation sent a chill through the command center. Humanity had always wondered if they would encounter hostile aliens, but they had imagined wars between civilizations, conflicts over resources or territory. The idea that they might be viewed as nothing more than animals to be hunted was somehow more terrifying than any military threat. "Show me their movement patterns," Admiral Mitchell ordered. The display shifted to show the aliens' approach to Marcus Chen's shelter. Even in death, the young scientist was still providing valuable intelligence. Their formation was perfect for containing prey, but Admiral Mitchell's experienced eye noticed something else. "They're overconfident," she murmured. "Look at their spacing, their weapon discipline. They're so certain of their superiority that they're not even considering the possibility of serious resistance." "That could be an advantage," General Rodriguez suggested. "If they underestimate us, maybe." Admiral Mitchell wasn't convinced. The aliens' confidence seemed justified based on their technology. What about their biology? Dr. Walsh highlighted the detailed scans of the Zephyrian physiology. Fascinating, actually. They appear to be apex predators that evolved on a high-gravity world. Their bone density is approximately 3 times that of humans. Their reaction speed is enhanced by what appears to be a distributed nervous system, and their sensory apparatus is clearly designed for tracking prey across vast distances. In other words, they're built for hunting, Admiral Mitchell said. Built for it, evolved for it, and apparently have been doing it successfully across multiple star systems. The probe recorded references to 43 conquered worlds. The silence in the command center was heavy with implication. 43 worlds meant 43 extinction events, 43 civilizations that had faced the Zephyrian Empire and lost. Earth was number 44 on the list. How long do we have? Admiral Mitchell asked the question everyone was thinking. Dr. Walsh consulted his calculations. Based on the energy signatures detected by the probe, their fleet appears to be operating out of a staging area approximately 18 light-years from Earth. If they maintain standard patrol patterns and don't suspect we have advance warning, we might have 6 months before they arrive. 6 months to prepare for a war against aliens who had successfully hunted 43 other species. 6 months to develop countermeasures for technology centuries ahead of their own. 6 months to transform humanity from prey into something else entirely. What about their communication systems? Admiral Mitchell was already thinking tactically, looking for any advantage they could exploit. Quantum entangled, but we managed to decode their basic protocols. Apparently, they use a form of pheromone-enhanced telepathy for close-range coordination, but their long-range communications are technological. The good news is that Dr. Chen's probe was sophisticated enough to crack their encryption algorithms. Admiral Mitchell felt a surge of pride for the young scientist who had died alone on that distant moon. Even in his final moments, Marcus Chen had been thinking like a researcher, gathering data that could save his species. Can we monitor their communications? With the right equipment, yes. But Admiral, there's something else you need to know. Dr. Walsh's expression grew even more grim. The probe detected a massive energy signature in the Zephyrian staging area. Based on the readings, they're not just planning a hunting expedition to Earth. What do you mean? They're bringing a colony ship. This isn't just about eliminating human resistance. They're planning to claim our solar system as their new territory. The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. This wasn't a military conquest or even a hunting expedition. It was an extermination followed by colonization. The Zephyrians weren't just planning to kill humanity, they were planning to replace them entirely. Mobilize everything, Admiral Mitchell ordered, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. I want our best people working on this around the clock. We need new weapons, new ships, new strategies. And we need them in 6 months. Admiral, with all due respect, General Rodriguez spoke carefully. Even if we mobilize every resource on Earth, we can't match their technological advantage in 6 months. It takes years to develop new weapons systems, longer to build and deploy them. Admiral Mitchell turned to face her assembled staff, her eyes blazing with determination. Then we don't try to match their technology. We do what humans do best. We adapt. Over the next 72 hours, Earth transformed. The probe's data was distributed to every major research facility, military installation, and manufacturing center on the planet. Dr. Chen's sacrifice had given humanity something invaluable: knowledge of their enemy. But it was what they did with that knowledge that would define their species' future. Dr. Delphorosis, Elena Vasquez, head of Earth's Experimental Weapons Division, was the first to identify a potential weakness in the Zephyrian technology. Their energy weapons, while incredibly powerful, operated on fixed frequencies that could be disrupted by specific electromagnetic interference patterns. It's like their weapons are too efficient, she explained to a gathering of engineers and physicists. They've optimized them for hunting individual targets, not for dealing with coordinated electronic warfare. Within days, every electronics manufacturer on Earth had retooled their production lines to create portable EMP devices designed to disrupt Zephyrian weapons. They wouldn't stop the aliens, but they might level the playing field long enough for humanity to fight back. Meanwhile, Admiral Mitchell was revolutionizing Earth's space defense strategy. Traditional military doctrine focused on large vessels with heavy armor and powerful weapons, exactly the kind of targets that Zephyrian hunting tactics were designed to defeat. We're not going to fight them like a military, she announced to her staff. We're going to fight them like humans. Instead of building massive battleships, Earth's shipyards began producing thousands of small, fast vessels designed for hit-and-run tactics. Each ship carried minimal crew and maximum firepower, designed to strike quickly and disperse before the enemy could target them effectively. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Dowlow, Keiko Tanaka, a behavioral psychologist who had been studying the Zephyrian hunting patterns, made a discovery that changed everything. The aliens' greatest strength, their absolute confidence in their superiority, was also their greatest weakness. They think like predators, she explained to Admiral Mitchell. But they've been hunting prey species for so long that they've lost the ability to recognize an equal threat. Look at their tactical formations, their communication patterns, their weapon deployment. Everything assumes their targets will behave like frightened animals. And if their targets don't behave that way, then their entire tactical doctrine falls apart. They have no contingency plans for prey that fights back effectively, because in their experience, it's never happened before. This insight led to the development of what became known as the Chen Protocol, named after the scientist whose final act had exemplified humanity's refusal to accept the role of prey. Rather than trying to hide from the Zephyrians or meet them in conventional battle, Earth would do exactly what Marcus Chen had done on Kepler 442. They would surprise them. The preparations were unlike anything in human history. Every available resource was mobilized. Every brilliant mind focused on a single goal: ensuring that when the Zephyrians arrived expecting to find helpless prey, they would instead encounter something they had never faced before: a species that refused to be hunted. As the months passed, Earth's transformation became more radical. The planet's orbital defenses were completely redesigned around deception and misdirection. What appeared to be mining stations were actually weapon platforms. Commercial satellites concealed military-grade sensor arrays. Even the space traffic patterns were altered to hide the true extent of humanity's preparations. But perhaps the most important change was in humanity itself. The knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, that they were being hunted by creatures who viewed them as nothing more than animals, had awakened something primal in the human spirit. Fear was replaced by determination. Despair gave way to resolve. They had learned that the universe was a hostile place, filled with predators who would destroy them without hesitation. But they had also learned something else, something that Marcus Chen had understood even as he faced certain death on that distant moon. Humans were not prey. They never had been, and they would prove it to anyone who thought otherwise. Admiral Mitchell stood once again before the massive holographic display, but now, instead of showing alien technology, it displayed Earth's defenses. Hundreds of hidden weapons platforms, thousands of ships ready for deployment, millions of people trained and equipped for a war unlike any in human history. "Status report," she commanded. "All defensive positions are ready, Admiral," reported her operations chief. "The fleet is dispersed and waiting. Ground-based defenses are online. Communications are secure. And our special surprise, the Chen Memorial Platform is fully operational and standing by." Admiral Mitchell smiled grimly. The Memorial Platform was humanity's ultimate response to the Zephyrian threat, a massive kinetic weapon designed not just to destroy enemy ships, but to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. Time until contact? 14 hours, Admiral. 14 hours until the Zephyrian Empire discovered that their 44th hunting expedition would be different from all the others. 14 hours until they learned that humanity was not just another species to be harvested. As Admiral Mitchell looked out at the stars, she thought about Marcus Chen and the crew of the Meridian Explorer. Their sacrifice had given humanity time to prepare, but more importantly, it had given them understanding. Understanding of what they faced, and understanding of what they needed to become. The Zephyrians were coming to Earth expecting to find prey. Instead, they would find predators. And humanity was about to teach the galaxy's most successful hunters what it meant to become the hunted. Strike Commander Vexthul stood on the bridge of the Zephyrian dreadnought, Apex Predator, his multiple eyes focused on the blue-white star that contained their next hunting ground. Sol System appeared unremarkable on their long-range sensors, a single inhabited world orbiting an ordinary yellow star, populated by a species that had barely achieved interstellar travel, the perfect target for harvesting. "Fleet status," he commanded, his pheromone scent carrying confidence and anticipation. 47 hunting vessels in formation, reported his second-in-command, Kextor. "Colony ship New Dominion is maintaining safe distance as per protocol. All weapon systems are operational." Vexthul's crest bristled with satisfaction. This would be their most ambitious hunt yet, an entire star system to claim for the Empire. The preliminary reconnaissance had indicated a population of several billion humans spread across multiple worlds and space installations. It would provide excellent sport, and the colony ship would ensure the system remained under Zephyrian control for generations to come. "Any response to our approach?" "Negative, Commander. Long-range scans show normal civilian traffic patterns. No indication of military mobilization. The prey species appears unaware of our presence." This was exactly what Vexthul had expected. The humans had shown no signs of advanced sensor technology during the incident at Kepler 442c, and their communications were primitive electromagnetic transmissions that could be easily intercepted. They were completely unprepared for what was coming. "Begin deployment pattern Omega-7, Vexthul ordered. "Surround the system, eliminate all military assets, then begin the harvest. I want this completed within one solar rotation." The Zephyrian fleet spread out with practiced efficiency, their ships taking positions that would prevent any human vessel from escaping the coming slaughter. Each crew had participated in dozens of similar operations, and their coordination was flawless. As they crossed the outer edge of Sol's system, Vexthul allowed himself a moment of anticipation. Soon the Empire would claim its largest prize yet, and his death squad would add an entire species to their list of successful hunts. He had no way of knowing that every move his fleet made was being watched, analyzed, and reported to Earth's Defense Command in real time. Admiral Mitchell received the final updates from her sensor network as the alien fleet completed its deployment. The Zephyrians had positioned themselves exactly as their tactical analysis predicted, a classic hunting formation designed to prevent escape rather than defend against attack. "They're treating us like cornered animals," she observed to her staff. Just like Dr. Tanaka predicted. The alien formation was indeed impressive, spreading 47 warships across the solar system in a pattern that would intercept any fleeing vessels. But it was also a formation designed for a very different kind of warfare than what humanity was about to unleash. "All stations report ready, Admiral," her communications officer announced. Weapon platforms, hidden and armed. Fleet deployment, dispersed and awaiting orders. Chen Memorial Platform? Charged and targeted. Admiral Mitchell took a deep breath. Everything they had worked for over the past 6 months came down to the next few hours. Humanity's survival depended on proving that they were not the prey the Zephyrians thought they were. "Signal all commands," she ordered. "Operation Chen's Revenge is now active. Show them what happens when they hunt humans." The first indication Vextel had that something was wrong came from his sensor operator. "Commander, detecting massive energy spike from the third planet. Unknown signature." Vextel's crest flattened with concern. "Specify." "Energy output consistent with planetary defense grid, but configuration is unlike any known technology. It appears to be charging." Before Vextel could respond, space around his fleet exploded into chaos. What the Zephyrians had assumed were mining asteroids suddenly revealed themselves as weapon platforms, each one unleashing torrents of kinetic projectiles and energy beams. The attacks came from every direction simultaneously, targeting the hunting formation's weakest points with precision that spoke of months of careful planning. "Evasive maneuvers!" Vexthal roared, but the surprise was complete. 3 of his ships were destroyed in the opening seconds, their hulls shredded by weapons that appeared from nowhere. "How is this possible?" Kextor demanded, his scent glands releasing panic pheromones. "Our intelligence indicated primitive technology." Vexthal had no answer. The humans were supposed to be prey, helpless civilians who would scatter before their hunters. Instead, they were fighting with coordinated precision and advanced weapons that shouldn't exist. But the real shock came when the human fleet revealed itself. Thousands of small, fast ships materialized from sensor shadows throughout the system, each one no larger than a Zephyrian fighter, but carrying firepower that rivaled their cruisers. They moved in swarms, striking at the larger alien vessels from multiple angles before vanishing back into the darkness. "This is not hunting protocol," one of his subordinates observed unnecessarily. Vexthal watched in growing dismay as his carefully planned operation fell apart. The humans weren't behaving like prey at all. They were fighting like equals, using tactics and technology that challenged his fleet's supremacy. Worse, they seemed to understand Zephyrian weaknesses with impossible accuracy. "Commander, they're jamming our weapon frequencies," his tactical officer reported. "Energy rifles are operating at reduced efficiency. Switch to backup protocols. Already attempted. They're jamming those as well. It's as if they know exactly how our systems operate." Vexthal's mind raced. The only way the humans could have such detailed knowledge of Zephyrian technology was if they had studied it extensively, but that should have been impossible unless— "The research vessel," he whispered. "Kepler 442C. Commander?" "That human, Chen. He was gathering data. Somehow, the information reached their homeworld." The implications hit Vexthal like a physical blow. His death squad had been so focused on eliminating the prey that they had failed to consider the possibility of intelligence gathering. They had assumed human technology was too primitive to pose a threat, never imagining that the very act of hunting them would provide the humans with the knowledge they needed to fight back. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome became clear within the first 30 minutes. The Zephyrian fleet, designed for hunting scattered prey, found itself outnumbered and outmaneuvered by an enemy that refused to play by their rules. Human ships swarmed around the larger alien vessels like angry insects, their combined firepower gradually wearing down shields and armor. The Zephyrians' superior individual technology meant nothing against humanity's coordinated assault. But it was the activation of the Chen Memorial Platform that truly demonstrated how completely the situation had reversed. The massive weapon, hidden in Earth's polar ice caps for 6 months, emerged from concealment with a deep thrumming that resonated through the planet's crust. Its target was not the Zephyrian fleet, but something far more valuable. "Admiral, we have a lock on the colony ship," the weapons officer reported. Admiral Mitchell smiled grimly. The Chen Memorial Platform was humanity's statement to the galaxy, a weapon designed not just to destroy, but to send a message that would travel faster than light across Zephyrian space. Fire. The kinetic projectile launched from Earth's surface was a masterpiece of engineering, a tungsten rod accelerated to relativistic speeds and guided by the most sophisticated targeting system humanity had ever built. It crossed the solar system in minutes, its passage marked by the distortion of space-time itself. The Zephyrian colony ship New Dominion, waiting safely at the edge of the system for the hunt to conclude, never saw it coming. The impact vaporized the massive vessel instantly, its destruction creating a flash of light visible from Earth. With it died 50,000 Zephyrian colonists and the Empire's plans for claiming Sol system. More importantly, the destruction was recorded by every surviving ship in the alien fleet, ensuring that news of humanity's capabilities would reach the Empire's core worlds. Vexthal watched his dreams of conquest die with the colony ship. Around him, his fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that should have been helpless prey. His most experienced hunters, veterans of 43 successful campaigns, were falling to creatures they had dismissed as primitive. "Commander, Bloodhunter, and Stalker's pride are lost," his communications officer reported. "Captain Zexmar is requesting permission to withdraw." Withdrawal. The word tasted like ash in Vexthal's mind. In his entire career, he had never retreated from prey. But these humans were not prey. They were something else entirely. "All ships disengage and withdraw to Rally Point Alpha 7, he commanded, his crest drooping with defeat. Maximum burn. The surviving Zephyrian vessels, barely a third of the original fleet, led Sol system with human fighters pursuing them to the edge of sensor range. It was the first time in their species' history that a Zephyrian death squad had been forced to retreat. As his damaged dreadnought limped away from Earth, Vexthal tried to make sense of what had happened. The humans had not just defended themselves, they had hunted the hunters with ruthless efficiency. They had turned the Zephyrians' own tactics against them, using superior knowledge and coordination to overcome technological disadvantage. Most disturbing of all, they had done it while smiling. Vexthal had seen the human transmissions during the battle, watched their commanders coordinate the assault, with what could only be described as grim satisfaction. They were enjoying the fight, relishing the opportunity to prove themselves against their would-be predators. These humans were not a prey species at all. They were apex predators who had been masquerading as prey. And now they knew about the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Mitchell stood on the observation deck of Earth's primary space station, watching the last of the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. Around her, celebration was beginning, as reports came in from across the solar system. The human fleet had lost fewer than 100 ships, while the aliens had been decimated. But more importantly, they had sent a message. "Status of the intelligence package?" she asked her aide. "Successfully attached to one of the retreating vessels, Admiral. They'll carry our gift all the way back to their empire." The intelligence package was Admiral Mitchell's masterstroke, a data burst that would integrate with Zephyrian communication systems and spread throughout their network. It contained detailed records of the battle, proof of humanity's capabilities, and a simple message translated into their language. "We are not your prey. We are not your victims. We are humans, and if you come for us again, we will come for you." But the package contained something else as well, the complete technological specifications that humanity had developed during their 6 months of preparation. Not to share their secrets, but to prove a point. The Zephyrians had hunted 43 species over centuries of expansion, always holding the technological advantage. Now they faced a species that had gone from primitive spaceflight to advanced warfare in 6 months, driven by nothing more than determination and the knowledge that they refused be prey. "What happens now?" her aide asked. Admiral Mitchell smiled, and for the first time in months, it was a genuine expression of joy rather than grim determination. "Now we get ready for the real war, because they'll be back, and next time they won't underestimate us." She was right. Word of the defeat at Sol System spread through the Zephyrian Empire like wildfire, carried by the survivors of Vexthal's fleet. For the first time in their history, the Empire faced a species that had not only resisted their hunting parties, but had actually defeated them in open combat. The Empire's response was predictable. They began preparing for the largest military expedition in their history. But they made a critical error in their planning. They assumed that humans, having revealed their capabilities, would remain static, that the technology and tactics used at Sol's system represented the peak of human achievement. They had no understanding of humanity's greatest strength, their ability to adapt and improve under pressure. While the Zephyrians spent years preparing their revenge, humanity spent the same time spreading across the galaxy. Earth's victory had been transmitted to every human colony and outpost, along with the technological advances that had made it possible. More importantly, it had been transmitted along with proof that humans were not alone in the universe and that they were surrounded by species who viewed them as prey. The effect was galvanizing. Human colonies that had been focused on peaceful exploration suddenly became military outposts. Research stations began developing weapons instead of studying stellar phenomena. The entire human sphere began preparing for a war that everyone knew was coming. But they did more than just prepare for defense. They began to hunt. Human exploration ships, now armed with advanced weapons and crewed by veterans of the Sol system battle, began seeking out other Zephyrian hunting grounds. They found the remnants of the 43 civilizations the Empire had destroyed, studied their fate, and began to understand the true scope of their enemy. More importantly, they found survivors. On a dozen worlds, in hidden colonies and refugee fleets, they discovered the scattered remnants of species that had escaped Zephyrian hunts. These survivors had spent decades or centuries hiding, waiting for their hunters to lose interest and move on. Instead, they found humans offering them something they had thought was impossible: the chance to fight back. The alliance that formed around humanity's defiance grew slowly at first, then with gathering momentum as word spread through the galaxy's hidden communities. Species that had given up hope of freedom began to believe again, not because humanity was the strongest or most advanced, but because they had proven that the Zephyrians could be beaten. When the Empire's revenge fleet finally arrived at Sol System 3 years later, they found something that challenged their understanding of warfare itself. Instead of a single species defending a single star system, they encountered a multi-species alliance that had spread across hundreds of light years. Worse, the humans had done something no prey species had ever attempted. They had gone hunting for the hunters. The war that followed lasted for decades and reshaped the galaxy's balance of power. The Zephyrian Empire, which had dominated through fear and superior technology for millennia, found itself fighting an enemy that grew stronger with each defeat, learned from each loss, and adapted to every new threat. But the war's outcome had been decided the moment Marcus Chen smiled at his captors on Kepler 442c. In that instant, humanity had chosen not to be prey. They had chosen to be something else entirely. They had chosen to be free. And once that choice was made, once they had proven to themselves and the galaxy that predators could become prey, that hunters could be hunted, that no species was destined to kneel before another, there was no force in the universe that could take that freedom away. The Zephyrian Empire learned too late the truth that every apex predator eventually discovers. There is always something higher on the food chain. In humanity's case, that something was their refusal to accept any chain at all.